You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. Meetings in Brussels. At the Eastern Partnership Summit, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and the leadership of the European Union. The leaders discussed escalation of the situation in Donbas, support for Ukraine, and negotiations in the normative format. Details next.
Traditional family photo of the European leaders. During the first day of the Eastern Partnership Summit, the main topic of discussion is the threat of an invasion of Russian troops into Ukraine and ways to prevent it.
Möchten Sie sich schon kurz unterhalten, dass wir ein Gesprächsbild haben? Ja.
President Volodymyr Zelensky is confident that it will not be possible to deter Russia from an offensive by threats of sanctions. Steps to prevent it are needed.
Щодо санкційної політики, скажу відверто.
Speaking of the sanctions policy, some states, some leaders propose a format for responding to a probable escalation by the Russian Federation and introduce a powerful sanctions policy. We could explain our European colleagues that the sanctions policy is no longer of interest to anyone. Our state is interested in the sanctions policy to prevent any possible escalation, and then there may not be an escalation. According to the president, the Russian gas pipeline Nord Stream 2 can become a serious instrument to restrain the Kremlin from a full-scale attack on Ukraine, as well as from escalation of aggression in Donbas. We spoke with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz about the Nord Stream 2. Thanks to such an instrument, I could organize a meeting with the president of Russia, where any movements in the execution of the Minsk or other steps to end the conflict could be resolved. I hope Russian president hears me. Given a full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation can be prevented by sanctions, restoration of peace in Donbas and prevention of the aggression of the Russian Federation is impossible without direct negotiations with the Kremlin. The head of state stated this in Brussels. Ukraine is ready for any format of negotiations with the Russian Federation regarding the settlement of this process. We are talking about this not for the first time, and we expect the same to be expressed by the Russian Federation. According to the President of Ukraine, he expects that following the summit, EU leaders will send a clear signal to Russia regarding its actions on the border with Ukraine. Reported by Vadim Kramer, UATV News.
NATO supports Ukraine's aspirations to become a member of the North Atlantic Alliance. The decision to join the bloc should be made by only our country and 30 members of the organization. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said this at a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. It was Russia that, by its actions, pushed Ukraine towards the desire to join NATO, said the head of the Ukrainian state. The meeting took place at the headquarters of the North Atlantic Alliance in Brussels.
Indeed, for many years, Ukraine has seen itself joining a security alliance. But after 2014, after the war started, I believe that it was Russia that pushed Ukraine into NATO. If there is a full-scale war, we understand that there will be a lot of victims. We do not want this, like any civilized people. If there is an escalation, sometimes neighbors intimidate the EU states, Ukraine. It looks quite provocative, quite dangerous. And you say that NATO owes us. NATO does not owe anything to Ukraine. If Ukrainian army does not withstand the aggression, NATO will owe to everyone.
We have decided to make a new strategic concept, to develop a new strategic concept to be agreed at the NATO summit in Madrid next year. And we do so because since we last agreed a strategic concept 10 years ago, the world has fundamentally changed. And the new strategic concept has to reflect that change. One of the things that has changed is the behavior of Russia. For NATO, it is a great value to work together with a partner like Ukraine. We think that we all are safer when we work more closely together. And this is important for NATO, it's important for Ukraine. And together we work to enhance, or to work more closely together on how to help to solve conflicts and differences by peaceful means, not by the use of force.
Russia's aggression against Ukraine is one of the main topics of the EU summit in Brussels. The day before, during the Eastern Partnership Summit, EU leaders announced that the Kremlin will pay a high price for any military aggression against Ukraine. Charles Michel, president of the European Council, recalled that previously adopted sanctions are already in force against Russia, but if necessary, the bloc is ready to take additional restrictive measures.
We support the territorial integrity of Ukraine. We support the sovereignty Ukraine, we are coordinating with our like-minded partners, with our allies, and we will decide based on what will happen. And we hope that there will be no further escalation and no further aggression.
Our very first call is on Russia to de-escalate, but we are also prepared for any increasing aggression from Russia's side. As I said, sanctions are in place. Those sanctions could be tightened, but of course there are also sanctions prepared that are additional and coming on top on all the different fields you might think of. And the message is very clear. Should Russia take further aggressive actions against Ukraine, the costs will be severe and the consequences.
Leaders of the European Union recognized the initiative of the associated trio of Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova to expand cooperation with the EU. This is stated in the joint declaration adopted at the end of the Eastern Partnership Summit. According to the document, the EU and the associated trio will identify areas for deepening sectoral cooperation, including digital transformation, energy security, justice, strategic communications and healthcare. Poland, in turn, called on the EU to help the countries of the Eastern Partnership because of Russia's aggressive actions.
Either Russia will dominate for the next decades over the countries of the Eastern Partnership, or those countries will be more connected from the trade, economic, social, cultural point of view with the European Union.
Next year, an online Veterans Cabinet will start working in Ukraine. This was announced by the Minister for Veterans Affairs, Yulia Laputina. The initiative will simplify the exchange of information. In addition, an electronic veteran ID will appear. It will contain all the necessary data and equate to paper documents. Yulia Laputina, together with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, said they will create a platform where veterans can exchange business ideas, look for partners, employees, or work. Next year, Veterans Electronic Office will be opened, where one will be able to receive services. It will be a tool for systematizing policy as well as a tool for expanding e-services for veterans. Also, next year, the Veteran Business Platform will be fully operational. A bit more than 9,500 new cases of coronavirus were registered in Ukraine over the past day. According to the Ministry of Health, most of the cases are in Kyiv, Poltava, Zaporizhia and Lviv regions. Also, as for now, there are no orange zones left in the country. 8 regions are in the red zone, and the rest are in the yellow zone of the adaptive quarantine. The adaptive quarantine in Ukraine was extended until March 31st of the next year. This decision was approved at a meeting of the government. According to Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, in order to avoid an outbreak in the event of a new wave of the coronavirus pandemic, all current restrictions will remain in force. It goes about visiting public places with a COVID certificate, wear a mask and keeping distance. According to the Prime Minister, it is important to maintain the current rates of immunization so that the level of vaccinated adults reaches 70%.
More than 40% of adult Ukrainians have already been vaccinated against the coronavirus. More than 1 million vaccines are weekly administered by our doctors, but unfortunately the rate of vaccination is starting to decline. Therefore, we urge vaccinated citizens to join the communication for vaccination and tell their relatives and friends about the importance of vaccination. It is only due to vaccination that we can stop the pandemic.
Thousands of innovative solutions implemented in business, millions of dollars in investments, hundreds of successful startups. The 4th International Ukrainian-Israeli Summit of Innovative Solutions was opened in Kyiv. My colleagues will tell you more about the partnership between the two countries.
There are sensors for calculating passenger traffic. There is a system that remotely monitors the movement of the bus, which counts the number of door openings and sees the route of moving. Mikhailo is a businessman. His firm is engaged in the implementation of modern security systems of Israeli production in Ukraine. He has been taking part in the Ukrainian-Israeli summits of innovative technologies since 2018. He says that this platform is a great place for new acquaintances, expanding the client base and developing business. There are lots of leads, of course. Some of them resulted in cooperation indeed. Therefore, we will continue to support this event, and it is very important for us to be a part of this huge process of developing economic and diplomatic relations between Ukraine and Israel. This year, the event attracted the attention of more than 50 companies willing to share their innovations in various business areas. According to organizers, the most popular startups here are in the fields of IT, security, healthcare, construction and others. Thanks to the summit, over the past 4 years, the volume of joint investments in Ukrainian and Israeli developments made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Over the past 4 years, the summit has gathered more than 6,000 participants. If we talk about current indicators and an increase in trade turnover, then we also have figures that satisfy us. First, we managed to increase the turnover between Ukrainian IT companies and Israeli clients by $200 million.
Ukrainian IT startups are of particular interest to Israeli investors. The number of memorandums on joint cooperation and the creation of companies for the implementation of the most promising developments were signed at the summit. Ukrainian-Israeli Innovation Summit is a communication platform that facilitates networking and provides opportunities to share experience. This is a professional field in which every acquaintance has the potential of an effective long-term international project. Ukraine is interested in experience exchange and in studying the Israeli practice. This year, the event was dedicated to not only innovation and the exchange of business experience, but also to the 30th anniversary of friendship and the disclosure of new prospects for cooperation between Ukraine and Israel. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Valery Bakus, UATV News.
One's entire business in a smartphone. Modern developments and solutions from the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine open up new prospects for Ukrainian exporters of goods and services. In the coming years, thanks to such solutions as DIA Business and DIA Business Export, Ukraine will be able to increase the volume of foreign trade and develop new markets. This was discussed at the International Export Forum 2021 in Kyiv. Already now, the Chamber of Commerce and the Ministry of Digital Transformation are working to expand the potential of IT solutions for business.
We are working with them and are now negotiating with them the opportunity for any exporter to come in and get what they need, so to say. We are an export-oriented structure serving the exporters. We are talking about, let's say, whether they need the ATA Carnet certificate of origin or some price research or the market research of a particular country in general.
The railroad services online, national carrier increases their number. In addition to the already working chatbots in Viber and Telegram messengers, the Ukrzaliznytsia state railroads management company launched an official chatbot for selling tickets and sending flight notifications to Apple Messengers for Business and Facebook Messenger. Passengers will be able to buy tickets for all long-distance and high-speed trains, return previously purchased tickets, track the flight schedule and online station's scoreboard, and even check which platform the train is arriving to.
Our mobile application is under development. I believe we will present it soon. It will be very functional and it will help our passengers. At the same time, we are also developing an application for our train conductors. We have already procured modern mobile devices for them. One will have a possibility to buy the same tea on the train or something from our assortment, paying via bypass, in addition to many services that are going to be introduced.
Project Single Ticket was presented for Ukrainian cinemas. It's a system by the State Film Agency created to effectively use the budget, maintain transparent reporting, stimulate the development of cinema and make this industry attractive for the international market. Until now, Ukraine has not had a single database and statistical data even about domestic films. Therefore, the State Cinema Agency does not always know the full data concerning film sales. Besides, with the help of the system, distributors can get more data about the success of a particular movie as well as viewers' demand.
It will be a resource on which both content consumers and content producers and content regulators will be able to watch the occupancy of the halls and where and which halls pay off in real time. That is, reporting will appear. After all, the problem is that many tickets are sold past the box office.
Tens of thousands of New Year's trees are being grown in Volyn region in western Ukraine. They are already delivered to different regions of Ukraine. These pines and spruces are in particular demand, Forster says. The trees are fluffy and flavorful. What New Year trees are in trend this season, our correspondents will tell.
Look how fluffy it is. Forester Roman shows spruces and pines that are grown in a selection and seed center near the city of Lutsk. A total of 4,000 conifers grow here. It's a Crimean pine. Its needles differ from an ordinary pines by their length and appearance. Trees are grown from seeds. They are cut only when they reach 1.5 to 2 meters in height. If it has already acquired an aesthetic appearance and is high enough, then we cut it. They are grown for this purpose, to bring joy to people. This place in the village of Garazdzha shows Crimean pines and 3 types of spruce, common, prickly and blue ones. Part of the trees after the greenhouses are planted into flower pots. Now there is a trend that people are practicing. They buy New Year trees in pots so that the spruce can be planted and it further decorates either the yard or a certain territory. And this is a plantation of New Year trees in the village of Ukrzaliznytsia. Common pine and spruce are grown on 3 hectares. These conifers can be found in the market of almost every Ukrainian city. We take care of the tree, shake it off. It will be cut this year and sold by the enterprise. People from the south and east of Ukraine come here to buy tree foresters say. This is because conifers grow well in western and northern Ukraine. They have a specific aroma and are very fluffy. Each of the trees cut has a chip. That's it, the tree is legal. The chip indicates the place of origin, where the tree came from, which company sold it and where was it grown. New trees are planted in place of the cut ones. In some 7-8 years, they will also come to the homes of Ukrainians on Christmas and New Year celebrations. This is an ordinary spruce, which was planted in spring. It is the 2nd year it grows. The tree needs to grow, some 4, 5 or 6 years. In December, foresters have already sold more than 15,000 trees out of 60,000 designed for sale in Volyn region. This year, the cost of the tree starts from 100 hryvnias, that is some $4. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Pavlo Melnichuk, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Thank you for staying with the UATV channel. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.